Welcome to the Redwood July Town Hall. We're trying to get more intentional about our marketing efforts. So that means doing a lot of experiments to see what works and what doesn't. And one of the experiments we're running is an async town hall, providing you with the same content, but removing the live component. If you have thoughts one way or the other, we love to hear them in the comments below. This month, we have some great things that we're excited to share. So feel free to check the description below for specific time codes. But just to give you an idea, we have some Bighorn updates on where we're at with RSC and SSR. Rob is announcing a new jobs feature, and DT has been putting together some great demos that he'll be sharing. And Toby has built a new ShadCN package. So without further ado, let's get into it. First up, the latest on Bighorn.
Hello. If you haven't met me before, I'm Toby. I'm tech lead on the RedwoodJS core team, and I wanted to first update you all on our progress on Bighorn, which is the code name for the upcoming release that will include support for React Server components. So on my screen here, I have our standard demo app. We call it the kitchen sink because we try to include every single React Server component feature that we build into this app. If you have seen it before, you might notice that there's a new auth button up in the navigation menu. And that's exactly what I have been working on lately. I've been working on adding auth support to our React Server components implementation. So in the React Server components world, there are actually more than three, but currently 3 places that we have implemented auth. And that's during SSR. So when the user first renders when your user first requests your website, it's rendered on the server. And of course, we don't want to render pages that the user doesn't have access to, that the user isn't authorized to view. So SSR is the first place that we had to implement auth. And then, of course, when the user navigates on the page, it's behaving as a regular single-page application with a client-side router. And there also, we don't want the user to be able to access any private pages if they're not authorized. So we have added auth support to our client-side router. And finally, when the client makes a request to the server for server components, then again, in our server router, we also had to add auth support. And that's what we've done. So I wanted to quickly demo that. So clicking on the auth button here in the navigation menu, it has a red circle right now because the user is not logged in yet. Clicking there, you come to the login page. And from here, you can either log in, or if you don't have an account yet, you can sign up. So let's create a new user. And as I signed up, I was immediately logged in, and you now see that the green circle is, the circle that indicates the auth state is now green because the user is logged in. So now if I go to this menu, I click this menu item, I come to, and I see the auth navigation menu, and I can now access the profile page. If I click log out here, or first you can see that the user I created was user number 4. The user is authenticated. It's not an admin. This is checking the user roles. So we do also have RBAC support in the RSC implementation of auth. Logging out, it's red again, and of course I now can't access the profile page anymore. Going back to auth here, I need to log in again, or I can click forgot password or reset password. But I can't access the profile page. If I click there, I just jump to the login page and have to log in to access it. So that's the front-end side kind of auth. But Redwood being a proper full stack framework, we of course also want to provide auth support for accessing any API routes or any React Server actions that that are to be private. But that's work we haven't started yet. But we, for now, we're very, very happy with the decisions we made in how we implement auth for the front end. There are still a few rough edges. I don't have the web developer console open here for reasons. If I had it open, you would see rehydration errors. So that's something we have to figure out. Especially if I log out, it works fine if I'm logged in. But if I log out here and quickly hit refresh, you can maybe pick up on the red circle briefly being rendered as green, and that's not supposed to happen. So that's something we will have to figure out. So this is for the upcoming Bighorn epoch of Redwood. But as I was working on auth and setting up auth support in our demo app here, I also noticed a few things that I thought we could make better for the user experience for current Redwood users, or maybe more for new Redwood users for the current stable versions of Redwood. So I'm not gonna demo it, but the auth setup experience, especially for DB auth, which is our own auth implementation, is much more streamlined now. So in the upcoming release of Redwood version 8, which we hope to have an RC out soon. I don't want to give you all the date, but yeah, we're working on a first RC release of version 8 of Redwood and hope to release that very soon. And that will include a much improved dbauth setup experience where you have to answer, there are fewer manual steps. You have to answer a few questions, but then it will just run it through automatically for you and create much more of the things that you had to manually do before. Now it will create them automatically for you, including those login and forgot password, etc. pages that I showed here. If you want to, as I said, it will ask you questions, but if you want to, it will automatically create those for you. And there's also much less information text to read through when you have finished this, or when the setup command is finished, because previously it had to include a whole bunch of manual steps that you had to do that we could now remove. So that's for the upcoming version 8. We will probably, I'm not sure, but we will probably have a version 9 as well before sometime in the future we are ready for proper Bighorn release. Whenever, like you all know, we are big on semantic versioning. So whenever we do have a breaking change, we're not gonna hold off on releasing a new major just because we want to make it special. We rather have new features out in the hands of our users than wait for some big bang reveal of a version 8 or version 9 or whatever. The next big bang reveal for us will be Bighorn when React Star components are ready. So yeah, that's the roadmap update from me. Thank you.
Next up, Rob has built out a jobs feature that's pretty incredible.
Hey everybody, I am going to demo something I've been working on for the last couple weeks, background jobs. This is something that's kind of been missing from Redwood. And any kind of, when we started, Redwood was kind of focused on the jam stack. And there was really no easy way to handle background jobs. Netlify came up with this thing called background functions. This is still in beta, but you could have it run code behind the scenes. We even came up with our own. We launched a service called repeater.dev, where you can request a Lambda function, a URL at a certain interval at a certain time. But now that we're kind of focused more on the full stack running on a server full deployment, we can revisit background jobs and actually build it into Redwood. So what is a background job? So here's a traditional request. and this is going to be on the API server, right? A request comes in. Let's say it's to create a user. And then we want to send that user welcome email. Well, without a background job, you're kind of waiting for this, right? The request comes in, you create the user, and then you got to wait for the email to go out and make sure it's sent. And then you respond back to the user, hey, welcome, thanks for signing up. But making them wait here for this is not ideal, right? That can happen behind the scenes. So that's where a background job comes in. So now the API server just has the request comes in, creates the user, and then it says, hey, send this later. This goes off into a separate thread, separate process. API server responds right away. And then eventually, at some point in the future, the job server is running and then sends this email for you. So that's sort of the idea behind a background job. So how do we do that in Redwood? So we have, let's look at the code here. So there'll be a generator to actually set up background jobs for you. We don't have that yet, but I'm working on it. But what it will do is create this file here. This is jobs.js. This is an API source lib. Kind of like how we have a DB lib and a logger lib and a mailer lib. We'll have a jobs lib. And you can see here we import a couple things and we export an adapter. So this is the backend that's going to store the jobs. In this case, we're going to ship with a Prisma adapter since we're using Prisma everywhere. And then you can say redwoodjob.config and you say, here's the adapter to use and here's the logger. So in the future, if we have a Redis adapter, an SQS adapter, RabbitMQ adapter, you could use one of those instead. And using this configures all the jobs, but you can configure each one separately if you really want to. And then I kind of came up with this convention of you export this const jobs with all of your jobs. Then when you import these later, it makes it pretty simple. We can see what that looks like. So see here, there's a single job here, sample job. So what is sample job? So if we go to API source jobs, we'll see here, sample job. And all sample job does is just wait a certain amount of time. This is just to show that the job takes some time to run and then it finishes. So this is all this is doing, just logging the fact that it's going to wait a certain number of milliseconds. And you'll see here, so you export class sample job extends Redwood job. So you extend Redwood job and then you write your function perform. And perform is whatever you want your job to do. And perform can take arguments. In this case, there aren't arguments. There's nothing here. And then we can see if we were to schedule that job, what does that look like? So I create a simple function here called later. And you can see here we import jobs. And then in the function handler, we say jobs.sample. Remember that was that export that we had in the jobs lib. And you say perform later. In this case, I actually did pass it a argument, just a random number. So I can show you how that comes in on the other side. And then the function just returns the status code. So if we execute that function here, you can see it just says, oh, job scheduled. But what actually happened? So using the Prisma adapter, it put that job into the database. So there's a background job table. And you'll see here creating a record. There's a handler. So there's the name of the job to run and then the arguments that were passed in, that random number, in this case 362. And it goes into a named queue. In this case, the queue is just called default if you don't change it. It has a priority. Priority is 50 if you don't change it. And then here's when to run at. And this would have been a timestamp, but right now. So we're saying run as soon as you can whenever you get a chance. Now to actually run the jobs here, we'll start the job server. And this is going to be simplified, just a simple yarn Redwood jobs call. But for right now, it's a separate script. So there's the RW job script. And then I pipe that to the Redwood log formatter just to get nicer looking logs. And I set the log level to debug so we can see everything that's going on. So we'll see here when I run this, it's going to start up a worker and it's done already. It's pretty quick, but it's going to start up a worker, checking for jobs. It found a job here, found job 110. Here's what the data that was in the database. And this is part of the debug output. And then you can see there was the message that was in the job itself saying it was going to delay and then job was done. And then it marked it as success. And now it's just looking for more jobs to show up. So if I was to come in here and run, just put 3 jobs in here, and the next time this checks for jobs, it'll find them in there. Boop, found them and did it. And then if we can see, we can go back to the code here, and in that sample job, if we want, we can now have that argument. We'll just say rand number, and then in here we'll say, with random. And then we need to restart the job server here to get the latest code. And then we'll queue one of those jobs. And then we should see down here that it actually takes that argument now. So because it stores in the database, all the arguments need to be serializable into JSON, which is in practice not a huge deal. And I'll show you a good example of that. So if we take a look at our GraphQL service here, we got a user type in GraphQL. And let's say we have a user service, and right now we're sending an email. So let's convert this to be a background job. So we're going to create the user. We're going to give the user to the welcome email, and then we're going to send that saying, hey, welcome to the site. And then finally we return the user. So if we're going to do this in a job, what will we do here? So we'll have a generator do this, but for now we got to make it manually. We're going to make the welcome job. And the welcome job, we're going to export class welcome job extends Redwood job. And remember, we're going to write perform. And we're going to give it a user ID. So say give it the user ID that was just created. We could give it the entire user, but there's really no reason to store all the data in the database because we can just look it up again. So see, this is kind of a common thing in jobs. You want to, it's going to work with data from the database. So just give it a database ID and let the job figure out, get the record from the database and work on it. So we're going to say const user equals await. Let's see. I don't want all of this yet. Well, what the heck? Let's see. How close did Copilot did it? Oh, it looks pretty good. So we're going to get the user based on that user ID. And then we're going to go ahead and send the mailers, send the welcome email. So let's do the same thing. Welcome email, give it the user, mailer.send, and then we'll just need to import. We'll import the welcome email and the mailer. And then we'll need to import Redwood job. And because the lib mailer already has the logger and the adapter set up, we don't have to do that here. But if we wanted to, you could say static adapter equals, and let's say, you had the Redis adapter. You could do that. And then, now welcome job will use the Redis adapter and everybody else will use the Prism adapter. And then in here now, we're going to get rid of this. And we're just going to say await jobs. And we'll add it to the export as, let's say, welcome. Perform later, giving it the user's ID. Let's see if it gets this import. Nope. So we're going to import jobs. And then we don't need these two anymore. And that's it. So now that's going to perform asynchronously in the background whenever it gets a chance. If you wanted to, you could delay this. So let's say you didn't want it to send necessarily right away. You wanted to wait. So you could say set wait. And we'll say we'll wait 300 milliseconds, which is 5 minutes. So wait 5 minutes before you actually perform it. And that stores the same record in the database, but sets the run at to 5 minutes in the future. Or you can say wait until, and you could run this at a specific date and time. So if you wanted to say 2025 on January 1st, right, you could do that. Now, that RW jobs work. That's basically the dev mode of the job server. So when you're ready for production, you're going to want to run it in the background, just have it running constantly, right? So we're going to come in here. I'm going to kill this. And to run in production, we don't need the log formatter. We're just going to say start. And then that will start up and then detach the workers. So if we look here in the activity monitor, you can see here there's a single worker running RW jobs worker, and now it's just running in the background forever. And so then if you want to stop it, you can come in here and say stop. And then it'll look up that process. This guy will see, oh, there's a worker running. I need to stop him. Boop, and now he's gone. And that just by default will run one, but you can say I want to run 2 workers or 10 workers. Or you can say I want to run 2 workers looking at the default named queue, and I want to run 1 worker looking at the email named queue. So you can kind of scale your workers based on how full your queue gets. So now if you do this and we check out activity monitor, we'll see here there's 0 and 1 working on default and 0 working on email. And then you just give it that same string when you want to stop it. So it lets you scale your, your front end and your back end and your jobs stuff all separately, independently, which is pretty neat. So that would just be part of your deployment process, is to restart your job server there and update your queues. If you suddenly add a new queue or rename a queue or need to scale a queue, you would just do that as part of your deployment process. So yeah, that's background job. That's where it's at. It should be coming pretty soon, next couple weeks, hopefully. Thanks.
Pretty sweet, right? Next, DT has built out some pretty great demos based on conversations he's seen within the community.
Hi, I'm going to demo how to set up Redwood real-time for GraphQL in real time. Okay, let's go. First, let's create a new Redwood app. We'll call it RT Demo. And we're going to answer a few questions. And we're going to install all the node packages, which will give me a chance to say what Redwood Realtime is. It's for GraphQL, and we support subscriptions, live queries, defer, and stream directives. For subscriptions, think a chat room, people post messages, you get the message. Live queries, think about an auction where you place bids and you get the highest bid and you need to know what the bids are that are coming in. Stream, think streaming responses, like a stock ticker or an AI chatbot, where you present information as it comes in. In our example, we're going to have somebody reciting an alphabet letter by letter. And defer, that's when a response can have something that happens quickly and also something that takes a little bit longer, and you want to wait for that slower response, so you give immediate feedback, and then when that's completed, you don't hold up the result, and you get that response. It's great. So we're already done here, and we're going to go into our demo app, and the first thing we need to do is we need to set up real-time. Again, we're going to use the Redwood CLI to do this. We have a setup command called setup real-time, and we're going to do a few things. We're installing some packages. We're setting up the API lib file config. We're adding some examples, setting up the server file because real-time requires a server. And let's have a look at actually what we created here. So let's bring up VS Code. Great. In our API, first thing you can see is we now have a server file. So this is a serverfold Redwood instance. We have created some subscriptions, new messages to listen to chat rooms, some services for our various examples, and all our SDLs that describe our mutations and our queries to get the auction and to get to the alphabet. What we want to do is we want to have a look at our real-time config. So our real-time config here sets up Redwood so that it imports all the subscriptions, and it configures if you want to use live queries. We want to enable defer and stream because we want to demo that. And right now we're using an in-memory store, but you can use a Redis store in production if you want. Last, we just want to make sure that our configuration is being used and that we add it to our handler. Excellent. Okay, we're done with that. Let's start up dev server. And now our dev server is up. What we're going to do here is we're going to use GraphQL Playground to do some demos. Okay, so now we're up and running. See that we've made a request. We're using Redwood version 7.7.2 here. And what's important is we now have our query examples for our streaming alphabet, our live query auction, our fast and slow fields for defer, and our room to query room. But we're not going to look at that because that's a subscription. So you can see that we've now added a new type called a subscription here where we're going to subscribe to messages. But okay, let's first start with the auction live query. So we're interested in auction room 1, and we want the ID and the title. So let's see what's in auction 1. It's a RedwoodJS logo shirt, and you can see that there's been one bid. It's $20, and we've already finished the response. We're not paying attention to all the other bids that come in. So we can change that by adding the live client directive here. And now you can see as bids come in, let's run a little script here to add a bid to auction ID 1 with $120. You can see that as it posts, the bids come in and the highest bid has been updated. We'll do 125. 200, and now this is updating live. As the bids come in, we're getting them with response without having to pull or refresh in GraphQL. Pretty cool. Let's now take a look at subscriptions. So we want to subscribe to new messages for, let's say, room 3, and get the body for that. So we want to listen, essentially, we've entered chat room 3, and we want to see what messages are coming in. You can see that we have subscribed to the new message channel for room 3. Now let's just send some random messages to all, there's 4 chat rooms. So let's clear this. So we'll send some random chats. So what do we got here? So we're sending room 2, room 4, room 3. There we go. Did you hear from Ava? Room 4, room 3. Did you hear about from Mason? Room 1, room 4, 1. Okay, 3 was maybe not the best one to pick. Okay, there we go. From Noah there, it showed up. And Charlotte, room 2, room 1. And you can see these messages are coming in as we send. As messages come into that room for 3 or 2. Room 3, Evelyn is happy Friday. And I think we're about done. There we go. So you can see that as the message is posted to other rooms that we didn't listen to, we didn't get them, but we subscribed to room 3, and now we got that last message from Ethan. How's your day been? So that's our subscription. Let's get rid of you. Now let's take a look at streaming. So for streaming, let's cancel that. For streaming, we want to stream the alphabet. And what we're going to do is, as we stream, the server is publishing letter by letter 1 every second, F, G, and as it comes through. You can see what that looks like when we add the stream directive to our query. You can also see what it looks like in the response, but we can just post a curl request to stream the alphabet. And you can see here that the response is this incremental response. So we've got E, F, G, H, and as they're coming through. And the has next attribute says that there's more information coming through. So let's let that finish up. T, U, V, W, X. Feels like Sesame Street. And then we finished, and the request we've canceled, and all the publishing is finished, and the request was completed and took 25 seconds, which is about right, a second per letter. Now, our last example that we're going to look at is the slow and fast field. So in this example, we make a query for just a fast field. I'll show that. So I am fast, happens right away. And we could then do slow field. Ooh, and then, okay, so we're waiting on the slow field. It's taking a while. Okay, I am slow. If we combine these, we now, okay, so the slow field is holding up the fast field response. So we're not seeing that the I am fast response comes away. We had to wait until slow field finished for the whole operation to complete. We can solve that by having the defer directive. So here, we're saying on the query slow field, let's defer that, but the fast field will execute right away. So you can see, okay, I'm fast, slow field is waiting, we're waiting on slow field, waiting, and now we're back. We get the fast field right away, and we defer for the slow field, and you can think this would be great for anything that has some sort of longer response. You give them the information right away, and wait on something that takes a little bit longer. You can also see what that looks like in a curl request, where you can see that the I am fast is right away, but then we deferred, and now the slow response came through. So that's really an intro to the Redwood with real-time. Obviously, I just did demos in GraphQL Playground, but what you will want to do is implement that in your React app or in any other app. And with that, you can use live queries and defer in your cell. Streaming is not supported by Apollo Client yet. You can use Urkel, and there's ways to use that within Redwood for specific pages. For subscriptions, there's a use subscription GraphQL hook in Redwood Web. And if you want to know more, you can come into our Discord, and happy to show examples of how to use that. Thanks very much.
Last but certainly not least, we have Toby back on to share about a new ShadCN package that he's built.
It's me again. And now I wanted to show you all something completely different. So in front of me here, I have a newly set up Redwood project on version 7 point something. 7 7.7.2, so yeah, the latest stable release. As you all probably already know, we like Tailwind. Who doesn't, right? So we have a integrated setup command for setting up Tailwind in your Redwood apps. So if you haven't seen it before, this is how you do it. It's super easy. Yarn Redwood setup UI Tailwind. Let that run for a hot second there. So yeah, this will set up Tailwind, and now we can run the dev server. Dev. And yay, beautiful page. I want the title to be larger. Fair warning, I'm not a front-end designer developer. I do framework code for a reason, so bear with me here. Text, we want it. What did it say? I want a large font bold, and I want it bigger. Text 4XL. It works. I want some margin, I think, or maybe. That's not how you do it. It's like that, right? Yeah, there you go. This is an orange homepage, clearly not, with purple text. Nope. Well, the text at least I know how to fix. Class name, text purple to 800. Beautiful. Rainbows, not really, but I can cheat. Hold on. Class name. Close enough. All right, yeah. This is fun. This is too much fun, even for me. But this was not what I was supposed to demo here for you. But clearly, as you can see, we have Tailwind set up for you by running a super simple setup command. So something else that's super popular that's built on top of Tailwind is ShadCN, the component library. We have had manual setup instructions for setting up Shad with the Redwood project, but I thought we could do better. So this is not a command that is integrated in the Redwood CLI. This is a standalone Node script or tool that I built myself. So you can't run it with the regular yarn rw commands. So instead we do yarn dlx setup rw shad. So this will set up the Redwood shad CLI for you. So what it does is that it automates all of the ShadCN setup instructions and tweaks them to better fit with a Redwood project, to follow our code guidelines, code formatting, things like that. For example, in Shad, they like to use the @ symbol at the start of imports. We don't do that in Redwood. We just do source / whatever. So I have tweaked the Shad integration to follow the Redwood convention of source. So yeah, now that the setup script has finished running here, we have access to a new tool, yarn rw shad. And as you can see here, I can do label, and it will download the Shad label component and copy it into my Redwood project here. Another thing that Redwood does differently is that we do camel casing of our file names. Shad uses kebab case, I'm sure. I'm pretty sure. So you can see here, so as one of the steps, I rename the files. And as you see here, I also make sure to run formatting on the source code so that it follows our code conventions for our pretty settings. I also, this is just TypeScript being silly. I also set up the CN util for you that they recommend that you use. So now with the label component installed, I can use it on the homepage here. Label, and import it from our own UI components. Label toolbar, and there you have it. We can also install more complicated or involved components. Running just yarn rw shad without any component name will give you a list of all the components that are available. You can scroll through here. So for example, let's do the calendar. So as you will see here in a second, it doesn't just download the calendar component, but also all the components that the calendar depend on. So for this particular example, it was the calendar component, and the calendar needed the button component. So if you look inside here, calendar, this is again just TypeScript. You see that it imports button variants from button. So it had to download my script here first downloaded calendar and also knew that it needed the button, so it downloaded it automatically for you as well. And now on the homepage we can use the calendar. And there you have it. So this is a custom built Shad integration for Redwood. So tailor-made for Redwood, but not actually part of the Redwood CLI. It's a standalone tool that I have built. So again, if you want to try it out, you just do yarn dlx, so download and execute, dlx, download, execute, setup -rw -shad. That will install the rw shad binary. So to run that, you do yarn rw shad. And as you saw, give it the name of the component you want, or run it without any names, and you will get a list here that you can select from, all of the available Shad components. And of course, this is all open source and available on GitHub. I can't even remember, I call it setup rw shad. So this is source code for the setup command. If you have any problems, file an issue, or if you want to, fix an issue. And here's the actual Shad binary. So yeah, please try it out. Let me know if you have any issues. You can find me on, I print contact information here. You can find me on Twitter or X, or you can just file an issue on GitHub and I will take a look. Thank you. Hope you find it useful.
Thanks again for joining us for our July Town Hall. Again, we'd love any feedback on the content or the new format within the comments below. Please don't hesitate to reach out with any questions. Otherwise, we'll catch you again next month.